Oh, I just put my hand right in front of the camera. Sorry about that. Hey everybody, this is Heather Sides. I'm an independent stamina demonstrator in Spokane, Washington. I come to you live every Wednesday night with 3 new projects, usually cards, and I show you how I make them. And hopefully you can make them on your own or something similar later. So anyway, I love doing this on Wednesday nights. If you are new here, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And if you are returning, thank you for returning and helping us build our little community here. We have a couple specials going on this week that I'm kind of excited to tell you about today, and today only. You can get 15% off any stamps in the annual catalog. And if you don't have a hard copy catalog, you can go to my website, heathersides.stampinup.net, and I'll have that down on the table below for you to see later, so don't worry about remembering it just yet. But you can go on and you can see what stamp sets are included in that, because we have some online exclusives and things like that. So this sale applies only to the ones that are in the catalog. In addition to that, now you can double dip on the specials here. Let me tell you how. So you get your 15% off of your stamps, right? Then, in addition to that, we still have that special going on where once you've spent $50, for every $50 you spend, you get a $5 off coupon for a future purchase. So, for example, I went and placed my order today, because who can resist a special, right? And I spent $150. So I got an email with $15 worth of coupons in it. I also got that 15% off on stamp sets that I bought. So you can get both, and that's an amazing deal, right? One of the stamp sets I bought on sale was $15, and then I got $15, so it kind of washes out, almost like I got that stamp set for free. So something to keep in mind, but that special is only going through tonight, midnight Mountain Time. So depending on where you're at, pay attention to the time difference. For example, I'm in Washington Pacific time, which means I have until 11 p.m. to order tonight. So, or people here in the Pacific time zone. So that is something to keep in mind, but definitely something to take advantage of right now. That might be it for the specials. Of course, we refreshed our clearance rack a couple of weeks ago, so there might be some new stuff in there that you haven't seen before. And if you're on there shopping anyway, take a look and see what's in there, see if there's anything you can't live without. So I'm going to take just a moment here. I want to make sure to get this up on my screen so that I can see comments that you guys are making, so that I can respond. Oh good, lots of people already. Awesome. Teresa, hello. Hello, Talina. Hello, Joyce. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Nancy. Hey, Tanya. We've got lots of good people tonight, so awesome. Thank you again for joining us. Now, for those of you who are new, let me tell you about something that I do to encourage people to participate in the conversation. I do a weekly drawing, and I award it the following week. This gives people who are watching this on a replay a chance to participate as well. But when you comment, your name will go into a drawing for the prize that I offer out the next week. So if you're a little bit more of a wallflower and you kind of prefer to just sit back and watch what's going on around you, that's okay. Just say hello, tell me where you're from. I'd love to hear where everybody's from. And that's okay. Even just something as simple as that will get your name in the drawing. But if you're a little more adventurous and you want to be part of the community in a more active way, you guys can ask questions, answer questions, ask me questions, offer suggestions, any of that to keep conversation going. And that really is fun. And the other thing is too, in all honesty, that does help the algorithm to push my video out there to try to meet new people. And it tells the algorithm, hey, this is an active thing. But more than that, I just love the little community that we're building, and conversation does that. So I'm going to go ahead. Oh, thank you, Joyce. Joyce just reminded me to turn my AC off. Hang on. Okay, let me let the dog out. Hang on. You know, I thought about the AC earlier today, but I mean, it was like 3 o'clock, and I'm like, okay, I have to remember to do that. And then, of course, I forgot. Hey, John, welcome. So anyway, so that's kind of the scoop with participating in conversation. I'm going to turn this around. I want to show you this month's paper pumpkin kit. If you followed me for a while, you know that when I get my monthly paper pumpkin kit, I then do a video on Saturday showing you some alternate ideas to the kit. And I think this is the earliest I've gotten my kit in a really long time. Stampin' Up! Got it out like that this month. So I want to show you a little bit about the kit because it's so cute and fun. And then I will be doing my video on Saturday, this upcoming Saturday, the 22nd at 6 p.m. right here, same place. And then afterward, of course, I upload it to YouTube. So if you miss it, you can catch it here on Facebook, archived, or you can go to my YouTube page to catch it there as well. But I want to show you a little bit about this kit because it's so darn cute. And then I have a card that I received from one of you in the mail that I want to show and then give away our prize. And then we're going to get going on this week's cards. So hang on while I turn this camera around. Okay. Let's see, is there any chance that I'm almost straight? Of course there's not. You know I gotta play with it. Okay, not fabulous, but it's close. So, well, and then I bumped it. Darn it. You guys, this probably doesn't even bother you guys at all, which makes it even funnier that it bothers me so much. Okay, so, boy, it looks like, yeah, you can see my whole thing, can't you? Okay, all right, and look, you guys, I even have my glasses right here because you know I get halfway through and then realize I need them. Okay, so this month's Paper Pumpkin Kit, the theme, it is fun in the sun, and I just think this is so adorable and fun. So the ink spot, if you've never let me try this again in English. If you've never participated in Paper Pumpkin, you may not know everything that is in the kit. Oh, good. Tanya's excited to see it because she hasn't received hers yet. I literally just got mine this morning. So it comes with a Daffodil Delight ink spot. And then the stamps, let me get a piece of white paper. Makes it easier for you to see the stamps. There are some really fun sentiments in here. There's a sun, there's a sunflower, starfish. Goodness gracious. Oh, now I do need my glasses, see? Okay, so stamps that say, relax, you deserve it, wish you were here, waving hello, I see brighter days ahead, C spelled S-E-A, sending an ocean of love, hello sunshine, sending sunshine to, and my absolute favorite one, favorite stamp, sorry I was crabby. Is that awesome? Sorry I was crabby. Okay, so those are the stamps, and then it comes with these little embellishments. I don't even know how to describe what they are. They're not really gems. I kind of thought after trying to figure out what they were exactly, I thought, oh, maybe they're intended to be like bubbles coming up from a fish underwater. No, Stampin' Up! Used them like just regular embellishments, so I'm not really sure what they are. Also came with a roll of Terran tape that I accidentally already put away. You get your glue dots. Got a whole bunch of really cute die cuts here. Let me show them to you. So you've got these little beach chairs. These are so adorable. You've got the seashells, the flip-flops, the little crab for sorry I was crabby, sunglasses, the silver dollar. Let's try starfish. Gosh, I cannot come up with the right name for that. My life depended on it. Yeah, Kathy, I know. Mine was super, I was shocked that it came today. I was blown away. Okay, so then there's these die cuts, and they're nice sized die cuts too. So these little surfboards and sand, or the sand and the sun umbrella and toys. There's these die cuts, the little sign, the little palm trees, and this little horizon scape, I guess you could call it. Then you've got this where it's the water with the sailboat and the water with the horizon. And then here's the little island. And then this one, it's just the seashore. And then, of course, some tags. Your envelopes. Aren't they that cute for the outside of the envelope? And then, of course, that's the inside. And then your card fronts or your card bases are very different this month. Let me show you the 3 patterns, and then let me show you why they're so different. Okay, so you have this one here. You have this one. And then you have this one. Now it looks kind of weird because they all have this block right here, right? It's because this folds out and it makes like a 3D sort of fun fold. So I'm really excited to play with these and see what it comes up with. Now I think the fact that these bases are cut like this and fun folds, it might make it a little more challenging for me, but there's so many cute dies to do fun things with. I am up to the challenge. So that's this month's Paper Pumpkin Kit. So if you want to see what alternative ideas I come up with, Stampin' Up! Provides you with 3 ideas and enough supplies to make like 9 of each. Not 9 of each, 9 total, 3 of each. What I do is I make 1 of each, and then I make about 6 or so alternate ideas. So that will be Saturday night, the 22nd at 6 p.m. Okay, let me show you this amazing card I got. Also got this in the mail today. Today was a good mail day. And I got this one from John. John joins us every week, and he sends out, we participate in a program, I guess you could call it, called RAK. It's R-A-K. Hey, Marsha, welcome. It stands for Random Acts of Kindness, and John always sends out a card every single month. He sends them out to our whole group, and he sends the most amazing cards. This month, it's a fun fold that I adore, and you can count on the fact that you will see this again sometime down the road when I make it, because I love it. Are you ready for this? See, cute, right? But look, this piece tucks under that circle, so it holds it shut. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? John, this is a great card. I love it. So thank you very much. Okay, now we have our drawing for this week's prize. And this designer series paper was, I believe it was a hostess offering in like one of our previous seasonal catalogs, maybe. Maybe I'm lying. I'm not sure. Anyway, I threw in some sequins and some ribbon. Flowers and More is the name of the DSP. And Joyce Spear is our winner this week. So Joyce, I do not have your mailing address. If you want to send me an email or a message here on Facebook, either is fine, with your mailing address, then I can get this popped in the mail to you. Okay, so congratulations, Joyce. All right, are you guys ready to do some stamping? All right, this first card that I am making, let me show you. It uses the Cheerful Daisies bundle. Get the pieces here. When I refer to a bundle, you can purchase the dies and the stamps separately. Like some people don't have the embossing and cutting machine, so they wouldn't have a need for the dies. But if you have a need for the dies and you purchase both, you can purchase them as a bundle and you save 10%. So it really is a good deal if you're wanting both. So we're going to use those. We are also going to use the Stylish Shapes dies. You know, I use those a lot. They're basic shapes, so they really are a must-have. If you have an embossing machine or cutting and embossing machine, I definitely recommend this set of dies because it's so versatile. You use it a lot. And then I'm also using the Time Worn Type embossing folder. I like it because it's kind of neutral, so it makes a really good textured background without detracting from the design of the card itself. Okay, so let me show you the card. This one, I participated in a challenge where I was challenged to use 2 of our new in colors. And so I am using the, oh goodness, what are they called? Moody Mauve and Wild Wheat. Ooh, I almost said Wild Wheat, so I would have gotten that correct. Woohoo! Okay, so this card is a regular fold, stamped the inside, but
I promised you guys tonight some fun folds and some techniques. And I don't know if you want to call this a technique, but I'm going to call it that. This is stamping with our craft ink. Well, it used to be called craft ink. Now we call it pigment ink. And pigment ink is often used for embossing, heat embossing, because it's very sticky and your embossing powder will stick to it more so than it would with our regular inks. But you don't often see somebody stamping with it without doing something more with it, like embossing. And tonight I did that, and I love it because it gives it just a little bit of a chalky image. So it made a fun little background. So we're going to do that. I'm going to show you how I did that. So let's go ahead and get started on our card. The card base is your standard card base where it's just a half of a sheet of cardstock cut horizontally. It is 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches, and I scored it at 4.25 inches. Oh, and by the way, Joyce, Jackson helped me do my drawing today, you know, where I have a wheel where we pick the names and I let him push the button to decide who it lands on. And of course it landed on you and you won our drawing. And so Jackson said that if you aren't here the night that he does his video in August, because remember he's going to do a video in August, if you aren't here, he's coming back and taking your prize back. Marcia, yes, it is a stickier ink. Now, it's not sticky like Versamark is, but it's very thick. So, you know, I don't really know how else to describe it. I guess I don't know if I would necessarily say sticky, because when I say sticky, I think of Versamark. But it is stickier than our regular ink. It's kind of the difference between, like, our regular ink is almost watery, where this is thicker and not watery. Okay, so let's get started with our envelope. That's always a good place to start. And I've used a piece of our Wild Wheat Designer Series paper. This comes from the 2023 to 2025 in color pack of Designer Series paper. Oh, you were wondering if the card is sticky. No, not at all. But I'm going to show you how to avoid it being sticky. That's kind of part of the technique of using pigment inks when you aren't embossing. So stay tuned. That's a great question. And it's not so much that it's sticky, but it can smudge really easy. And I'm going to show you how to prevent that. Okay, so we take our strip here. It's 2.5 inches by 6 inches. It fits right on there on the flap of your envelope. It's a little bit bigger than what you need, and I do that on purpose so that I can just get it all pushed down, get it where I want it, and then I go ahead and trim off all the extra. So, you know, I press it down from both the inside and the outside. That way I just make sure I get it everywhere. I get that glue really spread out so that my piece of Designer Series paper sticks in place, stays where I want it, and I don't have lifting anywhere. And John, you're absolutely welcome and deserving of the kind words. I always, when I see your return address on something I pull out of my mailbox, I'm always so excited to open it because I know it's going to be something wonderful. Okay, so there you go. That's all you have to do to decorate your envelope. You know, sometimes I like to stamp my envelopes and sometimes I just go this route, but this is a great way to do it. And it's a great way to use some of that Designer Series paper. If you are a paper hoarder, and, you know, don't be ashamed, a lot of us are. By the way, I'm using my adhesive eraser. If you don't know what this is, I got a little bit of extra glue on my envelope. So you take the adhesive eraser and it gets that extra glue off. This is not a Stampin' Up! Product. I just buy mine on Amazon for a couple dollars. Okay, what was I just saying? I interrupted myself to say something. No idea what it was now. It's gone. Okay. Okay, let's see here. So now, let's do the inside of the card really quick. This piece of basic white is 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And I'm going to use this stamp. It's a little stem for the flowers. And then I'm also going to use this little daisy, which I have to laugh. I always stamp it upside down. I don't know why. I always want it to go this way. I think maybe I'm thinking of tulips or something like that. it really goes this way. I had to redo this card so many times because I kept doing the flower upside down. And then I have this little daisy right here. I've also got this little center of the daisy. I've got a big center of the daisy. This one has quite a few moving parts. Not really moving, but let's see. Oh, okay, and then this one that says, wishing you the brightest birthday. So for the inside, see, we're going to do a few little flowers here. You see, I managed to get my flowers the right direction there. And let's go ahead and start with the Moody Mauve. And what I did here, let's actually do the round one, the round flower first. Oh, wrong side of my block. This is what we call real-time stamping. You get to see all the weird things that I do that I shouldn't do. Okay, so ink up my stamp, and I'm going to put this one right about here. Clean off my stamp. Now let's just re-ink this just to make sure it's all wet. Look, I'm going the right direction. And I want this to be just, you know, maybe a little higher than that one. I'd also like this one to be a little bit higher. Just like that. And then I'm going to take my little center of my flowers. Let's close this. I'm wearing a white shirt today, so leaving my ink pads open probably isn't the smartest thing I could do. And I'm just going to stamp these little centers onto the flowers. There we go, just like that. And then I forgot to get out my garden green. No, I think I used Old Olive. Let's see what I used. I used Old Olive just to stamp those stems. I have to laugh because this totally looks like a stick to me. Which I guess, I mean, isn't that what a stem is, a flower stick? There we go, like that. There, just like so. Now, in my original one, I did a little bit lower, and I actually kind of like it a little bit lower. But this still works. It still is fun and pretty, and I like it, so we're okay. I need to put this away. Okay, so let's go ahead and glue this to the inside of our card because we're done now with it. And if we go ahead and put it in now, we don't have to worry about losing it or accidentally dropping an ink pad on it, which, you know, ask me how I know that that happens. Okay. And I'm just gonna try to put it in here sort of centered-ish. Remember, we strive for ish, not perfection here. Thanks, Joyce. Joyce commented on this color combo. And, you know, to be honest, I wasn't really sure about it at first because, you know, I'm still not completely sold on the wild wheat color. And it's really funny. I showed the card to Jackson afterward, and I said, you know, I'm not wild about this color, but I kind of like the mauve. Okay, I'm not wild about either color, but I don't know. And he was just the opposite. He liked the wild wheat better than the mauve. You know, everybody's got different tastes, which is one of the amazing things about Stampin' Up! And what we offer, because that means there's a little something for everybody, right? Okay, so now I have two pieces here. This piece of the wild wheat is 5 1/4 by 4, just like that piece of basic white that's on the inside. And then this piece is 1/8 of an inch smaller in each direction. So it's 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. And what we're gonna do is move some stuff out of the way. And here I have my Whisper White ink. This is the pigment ink. And when you get this, see, I don't use it very often, so it's very stiff. When you get it, it actually does not have any ink in it. It comes with a refill bottle, and you ink it up. I don't know why they do it that way. I don't know if it's because if it sits too long, not getting used, if it dries up, and so they figured they'll give it to you dry and let you start that process on your own. I'm not really sure, but just something to keep in mind. Okay, we're going to use the same 2 flowers again, and I'm just going to stamp kind of all over here. there is dog hair on my stamp. I wonder how that got there, Lucy. Silly girl. I'm going to keep this just in case I need to add a few more. Again, make sure your flower is going the right direction. Now over here, part of that's going to be covered up, but I did want to make sure that it went all the way over, if that makes sense, so that it doesn't look like it stops before the section that is going to be covered up. Lucy thinks she stamps, Joyce. Lucy she really likes cards. She likes to steal them off my desk and eat them. I have to be very careful. She likes the craft supplies a whole lot. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take that small flower center and we're going to stamp each of these. Now do be careful, because if you draw it, accidentally drag your hand across what you've stamped, it will smudge, because like I said, it's a thick ink. And the thing is, pigment ink doesn't just absorb into the paper and dry like a regular ink does. It's because it is designed to stay wet longer so that you can do things like heat embossing and so that the embossing powder sticks and things like that. So be very careful. Okay, clean off my stamp. Now, one thing you could do, great, now I got this open and now it doesn't want to, there we go. It didn't want to go back, but you know what I say, show it who's boss. Hey Nell, welcome. We're just getting started on the card part, so you're good. Okay, put that over there. Now, here's what I recommend. You can just set it aside and say, yeah, I'll come back to it tomorrow so it has time to dry, and usually that does the trick. But if you're like me and you're into instant gratification, you take your heat tool, which is what you would use if you were heat embossing anyway. And you can dry it that way. It cures the ink so that it's now dry, it's chalky, and it does not smear. So it gets a little noisy here. Hang on just a second. Now when you are heat embossing, there's a really easy way to tell that it's done, because your powder goes from looking grainy to looking smooth and glossy. You don't have any kind of a visual like that when you are just drying the ink, except in some places where the ink is a little thicker, it does kind of turn a little bit chalkier looking, but you can't really rely on that, because like you can see there's a couple spots right there that are a little darker, and that is not necessarily indicative of it not being dry. It just, there was more ink there. And it doesn't take a whole lot of time, but it does set the ink so that you don't have to worry about smudges and things like that. There you go. And that's all there is to it. And see, now I can go over it like that and it's not smudging. Okay? If I had done that before I heat set it, the ink would have smudged because it was so wet. Okay, now I'm going to take my wild wheat. This is the dark wild wheat Stampin' Blend marker. And I'm just going to go ahead and color over those flower centers. And I'm not even worried about being too precise. You can see where I kind of went out of the line a little bit. That's okay. Now, as is the case whenever I use my Stampin' Blend markers, I tell you guys, once it absorbs into the paper a little bit, your color does lighten a little bit. So when you do this, you may want to go back after a few minutes and do a second coat if you want this to be a little bit bolder. And I may do that. I'll let it sit for a while and see if I want it to be darker. Oh, Tanya suggested Oh, Tanya was saying Lucy stamps like stamps of Lucy. She could be. She should be, right? But she'd let it go to her head. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is I have a strip here. It's just 1.25 inches wide that I use the embossing folder on. You can see that little pattern. If you look really, really closely, because remember it's called time-worn type. If you look really, really closely, you can make words out of it sometimes. But it's designed to not really be able to read it. The point is that it's just texture, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put a little glue on here. Sometimes I prefer to use the liquid glue when it comes to adhering something that I've used an embossing folder with, just because of this texture. Sometimes it doesn't, the other adhesives just don't stick as well, and the liquid glue kind of gets into those little nooks and crannies, so it does work a little bit better. So sometimes I do that. I did intentionally make this piece a little bit too long so that I could ensure that it was going to be long enough after I ran it through with the embossing folder. Because of course, when you use the embossing folder, you know, in order to make those shapes or that texture look, it does shorten your paper a little bit. I mean, it's still the same piece of paper that is now up and not flat. So allow yourself a little bit of extra sometimes so that you can make sure it's going to still fit if you're wanting it to go completely from one edge to one edge. Joyce, that can happen. You can scorch it if you do it too long. You saw about how long I did this. That's really all it takes. And you know, if it's something that you do enough, you start to get a feel for it, and you start to know, okay, this is going to be long enough. Okay, so that just doesn't look straight to me. I don't like that. You know, I'm going to booger it up now, because that's what happens. You look at it and you go, I'm not sure that's straight, and then you get a little bit crooked, and then you have to even it out again. And now it's crooked. Now you have to even it out again. Okay, so I put that on there. Now I have, it appears I forgot to cut some ribbon for this. So hold on just a sec, I'll grab more. And actually, I do remember cutting the ribbon, so I don't know where it is. That makes me sad. Okay, so really I'm just cutting a piece that's a little bit longer than the card is tall, because I'm not going to wrap it all the way around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tear and tape. And by the way, when you have a paper pumpkin kit that comes with tear and tape, you get way more than you're going to actually need. So it's kind of nice because then you have a bunch left over for other projects. And I just use my tear and tape to tape this little guy in place. Now, before I tape this end, I kind of look at it again to make sure that it's straight. I'm going to have to do it again because I forgot to tear the piece of tear and tape off first. Let's try this again. Doo-dee-doo. Okay. There, see? And it just gives you kind of like another, like a dividing line where the two pieces have, one changes to the next. Now I have a little tag here. Let's go ahead and stamp the tag. Get my wild wheat ink out again. It's 8 billion degrees in my house. I just thought I'd share that with you. Okay. Little trick about this particular stamp. If you have this stamp set and you're finding, you know, you go to stamp it and this looks sort of mushy, I found this particular stamp set does not like to be pressed too firmly. I try to do up and down and not really press too hard because it does for some reason make it mushy looking. So I try to get it lined up as best I can. I press it down, not too hard, and then it's not quite as mushy looking when you do that. It's kind of a balance though, because if you don't do it enough, then you get areas that don't look like they got enough ink. So you might want to play with it on some scrap paper before you do it on the piece of paper that you're really going to use. Okay, set that aside. Now let's put some pieces together. with the dies, I cut out this little piece of, we'll call it greenery, even though it's white. I have the circle from my Stylish Shapes, and then I've got 2 pieces of a daisy right here that I'm going to glue together after I figure out what goes where. You got to kind of play with it a little bit. There we go. I did it. Yay, me. Okay. And then let's go ahead and glue that together. Put a little bit, it doesn't take a whole lot, so I'm just putting kind of dots on each of these little pieces right here. And to be honest, that's probably too much right there. You put too much and it's going to seep out the edges when you push it down. Again, it dries clear, so that's not a huge deal, but it can make a mess. So very little glue. As they used to say in my daughter's preschool class, dot, dot, not a lot. Hey, Judy, welcome. Yep, John, I totally get it. That's what I do with I do that with my bangs. I trim my bangs, and before you know it, yeah, I have none. Okay, this looks like I don't have it quite right yet. There we go. And I do like the liquid glue for putting pieces like this on because they're so small that it really is hard with our other adhesives to do that. So there we have the daisy. We do have another piece of the daisy that we're going to cut in just a minute. And again, I didn't give myself a piece of scrap paper. What is wrong with me this week? Okay, so just a little scrap of white here. And I've got the big flower center and my wild wheat ink again. And I'll just put it right there like that. A lot of stamping with the wild wheat this week. Okay, I'm gonna get my little cutting and embossing machine. Let's move some pieces out of the way so that I don't lose them. As you can tell, a big portion of my life is spent trying to make sure I don't lose things. Because guess what? I have a propensity toward losing things. Okay, so put our little plates on there and get my die. This is the one that cuts it out. And I'm going to go ahead and tape this on just because I do want to make sure that it stays in place. I use Post-it tape because it comes right off. And I think that looks like it's lined up right. Okay. Put our other plate on there and I just roll it through. It's easy peasy. I did find out today, if you don't have one of the cutting and embossing machines yet, and you are interested in purchasing one of the mini ones, they come in 2 sizes. I found out today we have one, you can get it in this basic white, and then we came out with one that is in the boho blue, beautiful color. It's like $3 cheaper in the blue. I don't know why. But if you are interested in getting one, you can save yourself a couple bucks by getting the blue one. Okay, so now I just take this off. And we have our little flower center right there. Put your dies away right away so you don't lose them. Okay, and we're going to glue this little guy down onto the flower that for a moment there I had lost, because that's what I do. Just a little bit of glue here. And I remember as I played with this, I had to do kind of an angle to get it to look the way I wanted it. So play with it before you stick it down. Did I? I like it better this way. Okay. There we go. Now I've got my circle. And I'm just going to go ahead and put a little glue on here, and I'm just going to glue this down to my circle. Kind of center it-ish. And now I have my little greenery. And what I'm going to do is just kind of put a little bit of glue here on the back of this. And I think I want it to be right about here. So there we go. So it sticks out kind of like that. Next, I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use dimensionals now to stick this. Okay, that's not where I wanted that. I thought it was, but I was wrong. So we're going to pull that out, and it did tear that little extra bit off, but I can still put that in because, you know, it goes behind the flower. Nobody's going to see that anyway. So put a little glue back on here. Because if I'm going to put this here, I actually want this little further up, like that. And if you still want that extra piece in there, let's see. There. Ta-da! I actually do want it at a little more of an angle though, I think. So I'm going to lift this up a little bit. Okay, we're going to tear this down, make it a little shorter, do a little surgery. Again, all this happens behind the flower, so nobody's going to see it anyway. You know, see the ugly bits. There we go. I kind of like that better. Okay, now let's take some dimensionals and stick this puppy down. You know me, I've got to put 1,000 of them on there. You don't need to. If you are more conservative with the dimensionals, that's perfectly okay. I just, you know, I go overboard in everything I do. Okay. Doo-doo-doo. Okay, all my backs are off. And now let's stick this down. It's not really, it's not centered over this piece right here. It's just kind of wherever you want it. I kind of like it like that. And now I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of this piece, on my little banner or whatever you want to call that. And I'm going to put one on the end, I'm going to put one on the middle. And then I'm also going to do just like a little section. You can cut this right off of the edges of your sheet. And I make sure I'm doing it the right. I'm going to put it along the bottom because the top of it is going to overlap this right here where there is already a dimensional. So I guess I wonder if this will come up because this is a little lower than I like. Be careful when you're pulling up dimensionals. Sometimes they come up easy and sometimes they don't. There we go. Okay. Just want it to be up a little bit higher. There. That makes me happier. And now, like I was saying though, when you put your tag on here, this top part is going to overlap this. That's already lifted up with a dimensional. So if you put a dimensional there and then overlap it there, it's going to be higher than the rest of the tag. Okay. And I chose to lay mine down where it's going over this little greenery so that it didn't interfere with the sentiment, but you could have the sentiment hanging down if you chose, or not the sentiment, the greenery. Is that straight? No, of course it's not straight. Okay, so let's, there we go. Now we'll go ahead and we'll just glue this down onto our card. Whoa. Goodness, I'm just having issues tonight. This is how you change your refill. They come in a little bag like this. I have to laugh because the bag is resealable, but I don't know why you need to reseal the bag. You are so right, Joyce. Anything worth doing is worth doing in excess. That especially applies to ice cream, just so you know. Okay, let's try this now. Put a little adhesive on the back of this one. I was so excited about this card, and it's like everything that could have gone wrong with this card, from having pieces cut to running out of the adhesive, happened. But we go with the flow here. Okay. And now we're just going to glue this down onto the card itself. Now you can see there's a very, very small margin around the edge here. And you might be like, what's the point of that? I like it because you'll see once it's on the card itself, it really allows this front piece to pop. Especially when it's a really narrow margin like that. It doesn't detract from the image that you already have, but it just pops it out a little bit. So here is card number 1. What do you guys think? Ta-da! So let's clean up our mess and we'll get going on card number 2. Okay, so the next card. Oh, I'm so excited about this next card. Okay, this stamp set I have been wanting for quite some time, and finally broke down and got it, and I love it. And I didn't have the dies yet, but I ordered them today, so the next time you see me use this card, I'm going to be using the dies. In fact, Jackson did help me pick out this set, so I think this is the set he's going to use when he makes his card in August, because I told him, I said, if you want to pick out which stamp set you want, that's the one I'll get. So I'm going to try to even this out just a little bit again. Oh, oops. Okay, so we're using the Little Dreamers stamps. Like I said, I'm going to have the dies next time you see me use them, or Jackson, whichever comes first. And I'm using the Beautiful Balloons dies. Now, I know die sets are expensive, and I want to point out that the only reason I'm using these dies for this card is because I wanted that star. In fact, I actually wanted a star that was closer to that size, but you make do with what you have. So my point here is, if you already have a punch that makes little stars, or if you're good at hand cutting little stars or anything like that, you don't have to get a stamp set just for that die, or you don't have to go without. When you've got a little detail like this, there are so many options that you can choose. So when you go to make a card and you're like, oh, I don't have that one particular thing that so-and-so used, and I love that card, think about what you do have, because you may have something on hand already that works just as well. Okay, so here's this. Okay, here's the envelope first. Isn't that cute? These little shooting stars. And then, are you guys ready? Are you ready? Because I can't even. It's so cute. And this one is another fun fold. It's called a lock and slide fun fold. What do you think? Isn't he just the cutest? This is why it's called a lock and slide. It stays shut. It doesn't flap open, right? And the way you open it is this literally slides off. Slides off. And that's the inside. And when you're ready to close it again, it slides on and locks it shut. Isn't that fun? And you'll see this is super duper duper easy to do. So let's go ahead and get started. Now for this one, let's start with our envelope. Now I forgot I did this. This one, there was quite a bit of coloring, and because I didn't do any kind of shading or anything like that, I went ahead and pre-colored this one for the sake of time, okay? All I did is I used this is our Azure Afternoon, Azure Afternoon. It's those two words, I can't remember what order. But anyway, okay, now I have to look at it and find out. It is Azure Afternoon. Okay, I feel better. Anyway, so I used my Azure Afternoon, and this is the dark lemon lolly. I used the dark Azure Afternoon, I think, here, and then the dark lemon lolly. And one thing I really like about the lemon lolly markers, just so that you know, or the Stampin' Blends. The paper, let me get a sheet of the paper to show you. It's a very soft looking yellow, which I absolutely love. It looks a little darker on the screen than it does in person, but it can be a little bright when it's compared with other colors. Not necessarily neon, but bright in the way a neon is. And I wish it didn't have that to it. I was worried the markers would be that way as well, which that brightness to me didn't quite match the vibe of a baby card. But when I used it to color these stars, you can see it's a very nice butter yellow without that neon look to it. So I really like how the markers turn out. Okay, so card base is a half of a sheet of cardstock cut lengthwise, so it's 4 1/4 by 11, and then I scored it at 2 3/4 inches on this side. So you go ahead and you fold that over. Take your bone folder, get a nice sharp edge, and then you fold. This is called a gate fold. You're going to fold this side over so that it matches right up against the first one. Now, I did not score this side like I did the first one, and the reason for that is because sometimes our measurements are a little bit off. Sometimes the paper measurement itself is a little bit off. And then if you score it and you try to do this, sometimes it doesn't lay quite right, and that bothers me. I don't like that. So I score one side so I know the measurement is right, and then I just manually do the other side. Now I've got the inside. This is your basic white. It is 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And then I have a couple strips. I used the Bright and Beautiful Designer Series paper, and you can see it better on the bigger sheets, but it's white with the little lemon lolly stars all over it. So let's go ahead and glue these strips together. You know I like to decorate the insides of my cards. I've told you guys this before, but for those who have not heard it, another demonstrator named Kelly Atchison, she has repeatedly said that she feels the party should not end when you open the card. And I love that. I think that's a great way to say it, or a great way to look at it. So I like to do something on the inside of my cards. Sometimes it's just a little strip of paper. Sometimes I stamp like we did with the first card. It varies. But I do like to put a little something in my card, just like I like to decorate my envelopes. It's fun to get something in the mail and see the fun before you even actually open the envelope. Okay, so, and it's a great way to tie it in so your envelope matches your card, which, most people throw the envelope away. So I know demonstrators who don't decorate their envelopes because they say people just throw the envelope away. Even if they save the card, they usually just throw the envelope away. And that is true. Okay, so now I'm just going to do a couple strips here, or a couple little strips of glue to glue this down. I did want to leave a little bit of a margin there. Let's do the other side and then we'll trim it. Oops, it's a little much there, but that's all right. Lay this down. You can see I cut the strips too long, and I did do that on purpose. That way I knew they would definitely be long enough, rather than, when you try to do it where they're the exact length and then they end up being not quite the exact length, and that just bugs me. So now we're just going to trim off the extra. Oh yes, and Jackson tonight, he's so funny, he cracks me up. He's no longer calling these lives. My stamping, our Wednesday nights, it's not a live. It is a stamp, what do you call it? Oh, no, oh man, I hope he comes out of his room. It was like an online experience or something. It was something experience. It cracked me up. Okay, before we glue this in, let's go ahead and stamp our sentiment on there. And the sentiment we're using is a star is born. And you know what I think is really cute is the card Jackson is going to make in August is actually going to be a card for my mom. And you know what? He's using a baby set, right? But don't you think a star is born is a cute sentiment for a birthday card? So we're going to just line this up. There we go. And I'm using the Azure Afternoon ink as well. Maybe he called it your viewing experience. Gosh, I wish I could remember what he called it. I was cracking up. It was funny. Okay. Let's go ahead and glue this to the inside of the card now. Centered-ish. Straight-ish. Okay, now we're ready to decorate the card. So I have these little pieces here. I've got the lemon lolly and then our designer series paper. And these are 2.5 by 4. And then these are just 1/8 of an inch smaller. So they are 2 3/8 by 3 7/8. And we're just going to layer one on top of the other. This is a great paper pack. If you don't have it yet, I definitely recommend looking into getting it. They come in 6 by 6 sheets, and I don't remember how many you get, but you get a lot. It does end up being the equivalent of the same amount of paper as when you get our 12 by 12 packs. It's just cut into 6 by 6 sheets. Why they do that with some and not others, I don't know. I don't know if there's a reason behind it or if it just happens to be where they get the paper from, or I don't know. But some of our designer series paper comes in 6 by 6, some comes in 12 by 12, but ultimately it is the same amount of paper in both. Okay, so let's get this guy on here. Okay. Oh, nope, nope, nope. It's going right up to the edge here. Well, now you've got me thinking about it, and I really do think Stampin' Up! Needs to make Lucy stamps. And then the question is, would they eat themselves? Because she eats everything. Okay, let's glue these on. Oh, before we glue them on, there's one step I forgot, and it is a very important step with this card, so let me show you. As you can see with my original, the two sides don't actually come all the way together. And the reason for that is because if they do, there's not room for the mechanism, if you want to call it a mechanism. Tanya, thank you. There's 48 sheets of 6 by 6 paper in those packs. Anyway, there's not room for the sliding mechanism in here if they come edge to edge. So what I do is I make the card like we did, and then I trim off just a teeny tiny little bit off of each side. You don't want to have so much there that you end up with this big white gap, because you do end up with a little bit of a gap. So all I'm doing, I mean, you can see this is all I'm trimming off of each side. Very, very little bit. And as it is, that bit that is open, I mean, you see that white behind it. And I don't particularly care for that, but I do want my mechanism to slide. If you cut too much off, then what's going to happen is your mechanism is going to just slide right out. It's going to just slide right out because it's not tight enough to stay in place. So you just want to cut a teeny tiny little bit. You can always go back and cut more if you need to. So now let's line these up on here. Okay. Trying to get them straight-ish. Not a ton of embellishments on tonight's cards because they've got enough details and such that they really don't need it. Okay, so there we go. So now the card itself is done. Okay, now we're going to make our little sliding piece. First, let's go ahead and do our lion. We're going to stamp him with black memento ink. Remember, when you're using your Stamp and Blend markers, you want to use the Memento ink because it is designed to work better with alcohol-based markers so that it doesn't smudge with the wetness. Okay, let's see, get this to line up right. I did cut it a little close, didn't I? Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, see, he's going off the edge, but we'll survive. I wonder if I cut that too small. No, I must have just had him at a little more of an angle on the first one. Okay, so, but we'll leave that. That's okay. I will cry, but I'll do it alone in my bedroom at night. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and color him. So for this, I have a whole bunch of markers. So first, let's start with the star. I've got my light and dark azure afternoon. So I'm going to start with the dark on the outer edge of my star. Whoops. Okay, and now I'm just going to go ahead and I like to use the brush tip for something kind of like this where I'm filling in a little bit bigger space because it's just not quite so precise and even looking as when you use the bullet tip because I'm going to want it to blend. So now I'm going to take the light one and do this other side. And now I kind of do circles where the blending takes place. For some reason, for me, that seems to work really well for getting the color to blend. And you can see it's a little darker on one side, so it gives a little bit of shading. Now we're going to do the body, and I kind of went crazy with the body colors. What I did first, I wanted my lion to have a little bit of a yellow undertone to bring in the yellow on the card. So I took my dark lemon lolly, and I basically colored his whole body, his hair, his everything, because I just wanted to get that yellow undertone everywhere. Jackson, what was it that you were calling my live?
A broadcast experience.
Broadcast experience, that's what it was. I was trying to tell them about that, and I couldn't remember what the first word was that you used. He used to work for a church, and they did, live videos of their services, and they did kind of a branding survey or whatever to figure it out. And people seem to prefer watching a broadcast experience over a live whatever. It was the exact same thing, but they were more responsive to the term broadcast experience. Okay, so now our lion is yellow. That's going to give us the undertone that we want. And to do his tummy, let's do his tummy first. I'm using the crumb cake. I've got the light and the dark crumb cake. So start on the outer edge here. Then my brush. Okay. See, so it's still got that brownish, but it's got that yellow coming through a little bit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do his body, and we're going to do the body with the light. Oh, that's the wild wheat from the other one. So I've got my light and dark pecan pie. So we start with the dark, and again, I start on one side, and this is just his body. Oh, poop. I meant to do his face to match his belly. So let's do that. That's going to be kind of weird there, but that's okay. That's all right. So he'll just have a little bit more brown there. And then this little trick where I take the brush tip and the light. Just kind of blend in everything a little bit better. Look at that little cutie patootie. Okay, so now back to his body. We're going to use the light and dark pecan pie. So got his little arm here on the side of his body. Might as well color that in hold. It's too small of a part to really shade it, and I want that whole part darker anyway. There we go. And then I wanted the tip of his tail to be dark. Okay, now we're going to take the light pumpkin pecan, what the heck? Pecan pie. And use my bullet tip here. Get little circles where I want it to blend. And then just going over the tail with the light. Okay, and now, let's see, I want this to blend a little bit better than that. Okay, so now to do his mane, I'm going to use the same colors. I'm going to use the light and dark again, but then I'm going to put a little bit of dark Cajun craze in there to give it just a little bit of a red hue. Makes it a little bit darker so that it stands out. So I'm using my dark one here. And I don't even think I'm going to shade this at all, so I think I'm just going to use the dark. And at this point, it really blends into his body, and you can't tell the difference. But believe me, once you add that Cajun craze, it will stand out. Okay, now we're going to take the Cajun craze and just kind of go along the edges here. See how I'm just doing the edges. I'm not coloring it in the fullness. I just want to add a little bit of that orangish color of the Cajun craze. So I'm going to take my light one here now to blend it. It's not going to necessarily make it lighter, but it just makes it, if I try to blend with the dark, then I'm afraid the dark pecan pie would overpower the Cajun craze. See? See how it really, that little bit of red to it gives it, or orange to it, just makes it stand out a little bit. Okay, now, got all these little loose stars floating around. Make sure I don't lose any of them. Okay, these are the pieces for our slide and lock mechanism. What they are is I have, let me see here, I have one piece that is, it's 2 inches by 3.5. So this one right here is just slightly smaller. It is 1 7/8 by 3 3/8, so that it fits on there just like that. There we go. And then I have a couple of extra panels here that I did not intend to have. Okay, so now I have a piece here that is just slightly smaller. It's the same size as my white piece. So it is 1 7/8 by 3 3/8. And the reason I wanted it slightly smaller is because I just wanted to make sure that when I sandwich it back behind here, it doesn't stick out and show, but I did want it to be big enough to cover our little mechanism. Then I have 2 pieces here that are 1.5 by 1.5 by 3 inches, and I scored it right in the middle at 3/4 of an inch. Okay, and I like to use tear and tape for this part because it's just a nice strong adhesive, so I know that my card isn't going to come apart. Okay, so take my bone folder and just really make sure that that tape is pressed into the paper really well, and then take your pick tool to take the release tape off. Okay. Now, if you are good at lining things up in the middle on your own, you won't need to do what I'm about to do, but I am not good at that. So what I did is I took another piece of tear and tape and I lined these up so they're side by side, and I just taped them together like that. Now let's go ahead and peel that backing off. This way, it's like I'm only laying down one piece and I can really try to make sure I get it centered, because of course you do want it centered as much as possible, or as the best you possibly can. Okay. Now we're going to put a little more tear and tape on. If you've never used tear and tape, just to reassure you, this does tear as easily as it looks. I know that like people tear duct tape and they make it look so easy, and I couldn't tear duct tape if my life depended on it. But this really does tear very easily. Okay. And now I'm just going to cover my mechanism. And again, this piece is slightly smaller than the piece in the front. Okay, so now we're ready to slide this on. And what I do is I do kind of, not really bend it per se, but I do kind of lift it a little so that it's easier to slide those corners in. Whoops. If there's a way to make something look difficult, I'll do it. There we go. Okay. It was catching on the edges there. And you just slide it in. Now again, if your gap between the two pieces isn't big enough, this is going to be really tight and it's going to be hard to slide. But if it's too big, then it's just going to slide right out. So you don't want to cut off too much. I say cut a teeny tiny bit, and then if you need to cut more at that point. It's easier to cut more than it is to add paper back. Now we've got, oops, one thing I forgot to do. Take a little bit of Wink of Stella, because everyone needs a little more sparkle in their lives, right? And I'm just going to color in the star. There we go. And it makes our little star all shimmery. You could also do that on these little stars as well that we're going to add. Personally, I think because of the silver, it gives the colored cardstock sort of a grayish tinge to it, and I don't like that. So I choose not to do that. But if you wanted to add a little more sparkle to your card, you could do it that way. So now we're just going to glue these little guys on. And the stars now, I'm using Azure Afternoon, Balmy Blue, and one little star is the Lemon Lolly. And I'm going to put a dimensional on the back of it, pop it up a little bit. Sometimes when you have three things like this, it is nice to have one of them stick up a little bit above the others. There. And then do this in the lower corner to balance it out. And there we go. Cute, cute, right? With this adorable little envelope. And that is a lock and slide card. Put this one back together really quick. There we go. I can't get enough of this stamp set. I think it's so cute, and I'm really excited to play with it some more because I love me some baby animals. In fact, another demonstrator friend of mine named Marcy, she and I have this ongoing thing about the farm we're going to have someday, and we get all sorts of like little miniature animals. Of course, we're never going to be able to do this, but this is our thing that we always say. We see a cute animal and we send it to the other person and say, for the farm. Okay, so our last card, we're going to try to whip it out because we're running a little slow tonight. I'm using the color and contour stamps and the Something Fancy dies. And this particular card, actually, I showed you guys this one, I think, last week. And this was a card that I received from one of you, from Marcia. And I thought it was really, really cool. Another fun fold. And I had seen this type of fold made before. In fact, you've seen me make it before. But what I had never seen before is putting the ribbon on there to kind of hold it down. I loved that idea. So I wanted to create this as well. So, Something Fancy and color and contour. Let's make it happen. Here's the card. I'm using the Countryside Inn Designer Series paper. I love this paper. It's probably my favorite of our Designer Series papers. And in a lot of ways, I made my card very, very much like Marcia's. In fact, it's pretty much the same except for the paper and, of course, a different stamp sentiment. But it's basically the same card. So, and that's what you hear us talk about, casing a card. It stands for, some people say copy and share, or copy and selectively edit. I learned it as copy and steal everything. But it's basically taking something that you are copying of somebody else's and then kind of tweaking it to make it your own, whether it's different stamps, different paper, different whatever. So here's the card we're going to make tonight. And thank you, Marcia, for the idea. So here I have a piece of basic card. That just looked small. It's basic cardstock, duh. Our card base. And this, I cut it lengthwise. So it was 4 1/4 by 11. But then I cut 2 3/4 inches off. And, well, what I did before I cut that, I'm sorry. So it was 4 1/4 by 11. Then I scored it at 5 1/4. I'm sorry, 5 1/2. I'm having issues tonight, you guys. Scored it at 5 1/2. Then I cut 2 3/4 inches off. So we fold it. And this is our card base now. This is where we go with this. Let's go ahead and do our envelope really quickly. Set that out of the way. I have a little strip here, again, 2 1/2 inches by 6 inches. Put your glue as close to the edge as you can, but be sparing with the glue because you don't want it to squish out all the edges. There was your musical interlude for the evening. By the way, John, thank you so much for your very sweet message inside my card you sent. In fact, I stuck it up to my calendar so I can see it every day because I thought that was very sweet of you. Okay, so stuck it on there. Make sure your edges line up. Press it down really well. Then open it up and press it down from the inside. And now we trim off the extra. Some of you guys may recall me saying that I love this paper, but the back side of it, a lot of the prints to me remind me of men's boxer shorts patterns, which is not a bad thing. I mean, that's what I wear for pajamas. It's just that's what it reminds me of, and I think that's funny. So we're going to use a boxer shorts pattern tonight. Not a pattern like sewing pattern, but one of the patterns of DSP that I think looks like boxer shorts. This one right here. But if you look close, it's little flowers. I don't know how many men's underwear have flowers on them, but you know. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and glue this down. Maybe. There we go. Okay. And this is going on the inside of the card. Right here like this. Make sure your flowers are going, if you use this paper, or if you use whatever paper you use, if it is directional, meaning its image has a specific direction to it, make sure you're not putting it on upside down. Now I have this piece here. This is 7.5 inches by 3.5. So 3.5, that doesn't sound right. Okay, it's 9 inches. 9 inches. I told you I'm having trouble tonight, you guys. Hey, Kathy, welcome. Okay, 9 inches by 3.5 inches, and it is scored at 4.5 inches. So let's go ahead and fold that. And now we're going to go ahead and do the inside of the card. And for that, I have this piece of basic white that is 3.25 by 4.25. It's going to go right there. And then I have a little strip right here that we're going to put along the bottom. And I'm choosing to leave a little bit of a margin here. This is the boho blue that I was talking about, the machine coming in boho blue. And this is Night of Navy. Okay. Now trim off this extra bit. And we'll just glue this to the inside of our card. Now here's the thing that's tricky. And I did this a couple times before. Like I did it, realized what I'd done wrong, so I did it again and did it the same way. This, usually you would be doing the inside of your card over this way, right? This one you're doing it backwards because remember, this is going to fold over. So put it right here. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and glue this down. Probably should have used my tear and tape again just to give it a nice stronger adhesive, but that's okay. Our adhesives are still pretty strong anyway, even the regular ones. Okay, so I'm going to line this up, try to get it straightish. And I just centered it on this piece. Open this back up. Let's do this piece now. So now I've got another piece of my designer series paper. This piece is 2.5 inches. So 2.5 by 4, and it just fits right on there. And you want to try to make sure that you're lining it up vertically with this piece, so it looks almost continuous. And then take a little bit of our ribbon here. I think I got a little bit more than I needed to, but that's okay. And we're gonna just tie it around here, tie a nice little knot. Actually, the best knot to tie is a square knot, because A, it won't slip, and B, it lays nice and flat. Just like so. And now we will trim. Looks like this one's a bit longer than the other, so let's, wow, it's quite a bit longer than the other. So let's go ahead and just even this out. There we go. Okay, now this piece is done. So let's work on the rest of it. Now I've got another piece of DSP. This matches my card front. By the way, if you're new, DSP is Designer Series paper. Drives me crazy when I'm new to an organization and they speak in all, what's the word I'm thinking of? Where it's the letters, you know, instead of an actual word. Acronyms. And you have no clue what people are saying. I used to work for school districts, and school districts are really bad about acronyms. Okay. There we go. Just centered on there, just like so. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this little tag that I cut from the Something Fancy tags, and I have my inks, my boho blue ink and my Night of Navy ink. I'm going to take the boho blue, and I'm going to take this little stamp that's splatters. See if you can see that. Yeah, you can kind of see. It's just little splatters, and I'm going to go diagonally across, just like that. Just gives a little bit of interest so your piece of white isn't quite so stark, just popping out at you like that. And then the sentiment. My sentiment says, "So very happy for you." I'm going to do it right there in the, oh, whoa, I almost did the wrong color. See, that's why we put away our ink pads when we're done with them, Heather. Let's try it with the Night of Navy. Trying to make sure I'm straight on here. There. I love this boho blue. I think it is so pretty. Okay, now we're just going to go ahead and glue this down onto the Night of Navy piece that I have. This Night of Navy piece is 2 inches by 3 inches. And just put it on here centered-ish. Make sure your margins are even-ish. And then I'm also going to put some, usually I wait till the end, but let's go ahead and do it now. We're going to put some basic rhinestone jewels on here. I'm just using the little guys. Come on, you. Okay, let's see. We'll put one right about there. Where'd you go, booger? Right about there. There. Just to give it a little bit of sparkle. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take, what I like to do is take a little bit of adhesive, and I've got my ribbon, this boho blue ribbon, and I love this ribbon. It's really soft feeling. It does create a little bit of bulk when you tie a bow with it, but I still really, really like it. Okay, so I've just folded it into a V like this, and I'm putting it on. Is that far enough over? Yeah, maybe I want it a little bit further over. But I put that little bit of adhesive down just because it holds it into place. Oops, that's kind of a weird angle. There we go. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I want to ensure that that stays where I'm putting it. So I am going to take a little bit of my tear-in tape and just tape over it just to make sure that it knows that it's not allowed to leave. Then we're going to put a few dimensionals on here. I'll put it right there. Again, going crazy with the dimensionals. You certainly do not need to use as many as I use. But you do get a lot in a pack. So if you have a neurosis like I do when it comes to dimensionals, you'll be fine because you get so many. Go ahead and use them. I know where you can buy more. Okay. Now, as we're finishing up here, and I know we're short on time, just a reminder that if you enjoyed what you saw tonight, and you're having a good time, I love it if you give me hearts and thumbs up and all of that, because A, it makes me feel good, and B, it does help with the algorithm. I just noticed that this is crooked, and that's going to bother me. But it helps with the algorithm. So if you could give me those hearts, thumbs up, likes, all of the above. Let's go ahead and just put this on here, and then I'll relay that. So put this right about center on your card front there. And then put this guy back on, only this time I'm going to try to make sure that it's not crooked. Oh, there we go. There we go. Now see, this piece tucks right under our ribbon. Isn't that awesome? Marcia, thank you for this card, for your design, because I love this, and I can guarantee you I'm going to be doing this many, many more times. I really like this, and I love how it holds the card together, because I hate it when the card doesn't stay shut. It won't stay shut, and this is a really cute way to make sure that it does. So here we have our matching envelope and our card. So let's clean up our mess. We'll take a look and see everything that we made tonight. If you're looking for some extra supplies, you need to stock up. You want to take advantage of that 15% off sale on stamps in the annual catalog, or earn some of those $5 off coupons you can use for future orders. You can place an order at my website, heathersides.stampinup.net. If your order is under $150, it would help me a lot if you could use that host code. That's what helps me continue to be able to provide these videos for free and prizes and all that good stuff. But if your order is over $150, please don't use that host code, because you'll have some additional rewards coming to you from Stampin' Up. I want to make sure that you are the one who receives them. So, clean up my mess here. Whoop. Okay. And let's take a look at everything we made tonight. So we have this little beauty with the Countryside Inn Designer Series paper. We have this adorable guy right there. And then we have this pretty card with the cheerful daisies. And of course our two cards that I showed you from ones that you guys sent. So I hope you guys had a great time tonight. I always forget. Thank you, Joyce. Don't forget that I have a paper pumpkin alternative ideas video coming out on Saturday, same place here on Facebook, Stamp Happenings, and 6 p.m. And I will have some alternate ideas for you for that set that I showed you earlier. If you have not ordered this month's paper pumpkin kit, it is too late to get the one that I showed you, but you can certainly sign up for next month's kit. And you can do that at my website as well. And it does also work toward earning you points for those $5 off coupons that Stampin' Up! Will send you. So I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I will see you same time, same place next Wednesday here at Stamp Happenings. Have a great night, everybody.